Okay, so my refutation, if I'd like to call it that, because could literally find no articles opposing it, because it is a good thing, I believe, but I will try to critique it because that's it. Alright, so the topic that Will chose was a child in the FLES program, also known as FLES, can improve their foreign language assimilation and be more advanced entering high school. So the FLES program is the foreign language assimilation, and so what they start doing is they'll go and teach different languages early on in school. And the thing is, I'm going to go and be critiquing the statistics he's used, the results he found, and the other aspects not included. So are any of you guys bilingual? Oh my god, that's a lot. Did you guys learn in school or your parents?
Parents.
That's what I thought. Okay, so I took 2 years of German in high school, and I know almost nothing. You can say hello. You can say hello, or a hollow. That's German, it's a letter, right? And so the statistics he used were, the statistics were from 1990 to 1995, which is like 20 years ago. It's older than me. So, and they were surveying 7,000 kindergartners. It didn't really include like what they surveyed, just kind of just said it surveyed them. So 7,000 kindergartners were surveyed, and they were about 5 or 6 years old, and I truly believe that they are not a credible source to have a survey. And so, yeah, they surveyed them, and then they went from 54 schools who were teaching it in 1990 to 93 schools in 2006. So they gained only 39 schools in 16 years. So I think that they kind of just weren't really seeing the results that they wanted and just kind of slowed down. And that is also outdated information. And the questions that they actually surveyed the kids were, is it fun, in quotations? Do you like the teacher? They may have answered positively, but once again, they're 6 years old and playing with scissors is fun for them. So I don't know if that's credible. And the results were that the FLES program is supposed to show aptitude for a foreign language later on. And these are quoted. A FLES teacher can see the growth in the student's ability to retain the information. Well, yeah, that's the point of school. They're learning something. But I think that they could probably be using that time and resources to go and learn something else and expand their horizons other than language, because, well, English is like the business standard language in the world. So, and then another quote is, I think the FLES program helped me out at the this is from somebody who was in the program. I think the FLES program helped me at the tender age of 10 to realize that there is more than America, which not a lot of 10-year-olds realize. So it helped me realize that we're one big world and we're all in this together. I just love it to pieces. I can't imagine my life without it. I definitely aspire to raise my children bilingual. Well, by the age of 10, I knew that there wasn't only the United States in the world. Did you guys? Good. And so, and they also stated that they were going to raise their children bilingual, which is mostly how people do it now, and it's not really taught on that early. And so, and the other aspects that weren't included that I thought about while trying to research this was, how much would incorporating this into the education system cost? I don't know. What about homeschooled children? Who would choose the language to be learned? And again, the English is the global standard. And yeah, that wasn't really mentioned at all, and I'd like to know. But so the data is outdated, and there's no follow-up on the students after these 20 years. So they're probably about 30 years old right now, and we don't know how they're doing. So thank you.
there's flex and then there's flex. So two different types.
All right, well, I think you maybe give up a little bit too early when you say, well, there's no opposition to this. I like the end of the speech, I think, suggests that there is a lot of potential problems with the information that's been presented and the inferences that are being drawn. There might be reasons that it doesn't exist in as wide use as the advocate seems to suggest it would have been good to do 20 years ago. I appreciate that criticism of the evidence in your argument. Now let's put it together in a pretty simple way. This is an argument that says it would be good if children were bilingual and that teaching them earlier would be effective. Well, I don't think that anybody disputes the notion that having a second language would be a good thing. I think everybody agrees with that. So that's not where our argument is. The question is, where are they going to acquire that second language, and is acquiring it earlier going to be beneficial in the long run? Is that something or is it going to work? Well, let's start with the first language. How well are we doing at teaching English, which is the first language in our current school system?
Very well.
You think?
We're like 30.
I would disagree with you. You know, I've got college students who can't write a sentence. I have people who don't know what a verb is. I have people who grammatically have not progressed past the second grade, and the idea that we're teaching the primary language well, I think, could easily be challenged. The notion that we could effectively teach a second language simultaneously, I think, is potentially problematic. Now, could some people learn that and do that well? Absolutely, especially if they get the kind of reinforcement that's required in order to learn a second language. I'm certain that one of the reasons that you cannot speak German more fluently is because you don't have continuous exposure to German on a regular basis. You didn't have to use it all the time. So you took 2 years of German in high school, and the best opportunity you had to exercise German is listening to old World War II movies, and that's about as much exposure as you got because you weren't engaging people in conversation on a daily basis. It's not like you went home and everybody in your family spoke German, and so you got an opportunity to practice those sorts of things.
No, they speak Italian. They just never bothered.
There you go. There you go. And I think that's a good point. In essence, the kids benefit the most if they get some reinforcement someplace. I think that's a good argument to be making there. And you've got some good criticisms here, where you're talking about those issues. But I just think that you kind of backing into the argument a little bit. You're reluctant. Maybe I can pick out a couple of things that I'm going to say, and I think you can be a little bit more forceful. I especially like the way that you visualized the program. Well, they had whatever it was, 39 programs in 1990, and they went all the way up to 68 programs or whatever the number was in 1999. Or 2006. So in 16 years, they increased by 35 schools what it was that they were doing. Apparently, it's not popular enough, it hasn't been successful enough to convince the vast majority of educators out there that we ought to be doing this. I think that's the inference that you want to make. You present the statistic, you kind of hint at that suggestion. I think you need to be more forceful in making the declarative statement to go along with it. So you've got ideas here. You just seem like you're reluctant to push the button and make the claim. And I think you can do that a lot more.
I'm not a confident speaker.
Yeah, well, it's okay. That's what we're doing. We're working on those things.